Hello, everyone. My name is Felipe Teixeira. I'm one of the founders and Chief Innovation Officer at Configura. I've been writing code for CET for almost 10 years now, and today I'm excited to talk about this portion of the platform that might be a bit obscure for most devs, including seasoned ones like myself. Believe it or not, there is actually a fantastic infrastructure built in CET that can help you enjoy the process of creating solutions in Paperspace. And today, I'll show you the most important pieces of it. Since the underlying topic here is paper, why not go for an, in my humble opinion, fun take on it from the get-go? We will have our friends from the office helping us every step of the way. To start, let's get our agenda from Michael's hands. We'll start by understanding what Paperspace actually is and how it differs from the regular space. We will also quickly go through PaperSnapper, something we all saw and probably used before, but you might never have pictured it as an actual snapper. Next, we will understand how CET organizes our page setup. Michael here would say this is the most essential part of it all, as it's the abstraction of a real-life sheet of paper. Almost like poetry in CM format, he would say. Moving forward, we will discuss the street paper class and how this one class in the middle of the ocean of features that is core allow us to create dynamic papers, or as I like to think of them, dynamic templates. Then, we will learn about chapters and some of its flavors. We will also explore the document creator infrastructure, which we could see as one of responsible for actually binding the data to the paper, almost like a magic printer. Finally, we will see how to combine all of these pieces into a solution that allows us to not only easily, but visually create virtually anything for Paperspace, but also pack it and send it anywhere. It could be a physical printer copy, a PDF document, a pre-populated paper in CET, the sky's the limit. Some of you who are watching this presentation may have worked on a project that aims to integrate CET into an external system. Just as food for thought, I'd like to add that during a good portion of my time writing code for CET, I was creating what I call computer-to-computer integration, meaning ensuring that CET could connect to an external system and send or receive data from it. CET is a system used to create human-friendly spaces. And isn't it surprising that the human aspect of this equation is somewhat, to us, developers, almost like an afterthought? The even weirder part is that CET ships with the solution for that issue, and it's called Paperspace. That's where the computer-to-human communication takes place. Paperspace is a class from Core that holds some of the critical logic and functionality that enables CET to become not only a powerful tool for designers who are in the process of designing and specifying a project, but also anyone who wants to export CET's data to humans in the outside world. This is the ideal place for salespeople, designers, and project managers to make sure that all the work they are about to do or have just wrapped up in the platform is properly presented to the humans on the client side. As a side note, the fact that we devs don't often wander into Paperspace means that the team who thought and built it did a fantastic job at that, allowing it to be both flexible and user-friendly just by default. So props for them. For those of you who never ventured into this particular area of CET, I present you with Paperspace. Let's explore around and understand a bit more what are the pieces that together give life to this section of the platform. First, and maybe to some of you this comes as a surprise, I want to tell you a little secret. As it happens in the regular space, most of what you can do in Paperspace is also controlled and performed by or through a snapper. Let that sink in for a moment, as this knowledge is crucial to everything that we'll see later down the road. To give you an idea of how prevalent this fact is, let me start by saying that, in fact, even the main area where you actually perform your work in Paperspace, shown here inside the yellow rectangle, is itself a snapper. This guy right here. Paperspace is also home to many unusual and creative snappers and structures. My personal favorite is the wormholes, inspired by the theoretical concept of a wormhole, a tunnel through the fabric of space-time that could connect two distant points. This snapper is the magic behind the view clip feature. Just as a real wormhole would, in theory, let you skip across vast distances instantly, the wormhole snapper lets you pick straight through Paperspace and Papersnapper into the snappers of regular space, as if you were bending reality itself. An essential part of nailing your experience in Paperspace is ensuring your document's output method is set correctly. Having the proper paper size and the resolution is the beginning of everything. And luckily, these options are right there in the main toolbar. This info is stored in Paperspace and is one of the fundamental and most important structures in their entire CET to human pipeline. In the Paperspace class, this information gets packed as part of the page setup. Page setup class is the structure that holds not only the info about the paper size and resolution, but also controls the output method itself. This class is where you find things like the printer setup object, where CET stores your selected printed information, including a PDF printer if you have one installed. The page setup instance you find in Paperspace is shared with the paper snapper that's inside it. A final important disambiguation before we move forward. What is paper for CET and how or when we should worry about it? The name paper is used in various places throughout core, including several important classes and methods. The most basic one is the class paper itself. This class, although vital to the entire system, is something you'll probably never have to touch or directly interact with. It is literally the representation of a type of a real paper format, for example, A4, Layer 5, etc. This class is mainly related to the operations that are tied to an actual printing job. So again, it's an abstraction to an actual real-life piece of paper. To try and make it even clearer, here's how paper, the actual physical paper, connects to the rest of the paper paraphernalia in core. In Paperspace, as we've discussed before, we will find the page setup information. In there, we have the printer setup from which we can get to the actual selected printer. And finally, in the printer, we'll find all the different papers it supports. So it's all paper, but different abstractions and representations of it. The whole point of what we will create today is to fulfill our users' needs in the best, most tailored way. Each manufacturer, dealership, designer, and salesperson is different. They are in CET looking for different things and ultimately have different goals with the data and information they can find in there. That being said, there is no reason to tie them all to a single output format or limit what they can do with the reports they generate and how they communicate their work to other people, areas, and companies. My belief in these facts is what drove me to create this presentation, and I hope it will empower all the developers who are watching this to adopt the approach of tailoring dynamic templates instead of static ones. The infrastructure we are about to explore is the foundation for the Print Reports dialog, CET's official print dialog, which is activated when you press the keys Ctrl and P simultaneously. I want to mention that although this is the main dialog in CET for the report configuration, you can 100% create your own UI anywhere and use the underlying classes and objects that we will discuss in a minute to enable your users to go further, getting to what I call one click to happiness. The main idea here is that I want my users to be able to click around as little as possible to get the result that they are looking for. I know I've been talking a lot, but I promise we will get to the code in a few. There is one final basic / concept that I would like you to know about before we proceed. The topic here is chapters. The best analogy for this class's responsibility was given to me by Caleb from Configura. Caleb explained to me that these classes are using an analogy to books. In his words, and I quote, "The single chapter creator is designed to make the page for the respective chapter, whereas the multi or chapter creator group organizes the singles into a collection. Finally, the standard chapter class is nothing more than a chapter that you can use to extract valid pages from it." Nice. We're done with the talk. Let's get to the code. Let's start by diving into the basics of what you would need to know to create your very own chapter creator for CET. Here, you can see that I've created a class that extends from single chapter creator. The basic API in this class is defined at the top here. As you can see, it's just a few simple lines of code that will set up the behavior and look and feel of our component. With this out of the way, the next step is to register our creator to CET's main event dialog. As I said before, this step is not required, as you can choose to build your own UI to expose the behavior of your custom reports. But for the sake of saving us time, and might I say, keeping the user from having to learn another way to do reporting in CET, let's just add our stuff to the main reports tab. To do that, all we need to do is call the function register chapter creator, passing an instance of our chapter creator. So this is exactly where we're doing that. I've added that to our function CM file right here. Let's just run this file and see what happens. There we go. Now, if we go into CET and hit Ctrl P, we should see our custom entry in the list. It's right here. Isn't that cool? Nice. Let's get back to the code again. Now, let's take a look at some of the extra stuff I've added here. The first thing is that, as we could see, we have a custom UI built for our reports. Doing that couldn't be easier. All you have to do is to override the create control method and return the contents of the new window you want CET to append to the native print dialog. Next, we have a simple class that extends subwindow. It adds a few things to it: an image, a text, and a toggle that controls whether we are using templates or code-driven layouts for our reports. By default, we have the toggle set to off, which means we are using what I call code-driven layouts. This is, to the best of my knowledge, a very common practice when building reports in CET, which is sad, as it's by far the most time-consuming to build and maintain. Let's check what happens if I click the preview button in CET. Cool. Got a report with 20 pages in it. Each page contains the corresponding page number and the total number of pages in the report, along with some additional information that I've included for no good reason. Let's just go back to VS Code and look at how I built this. The entry point for report generation in a chapter creator class is the method perform creation. As its simple signature makes clear, its responsibility is to create and return a chapter that represents the data in the report. Here we have two paths. One that relies on templates, which we will explore in a bit, and the code-driven approach we will look at now. For the programmatic approach, we start by creating an instance of a page frame, in this case, a standard page frame. This is the abstraction of a single page of a report. When you add a new page to the chapter, what happens behind the scenes is that you get a new copy of this object added to the final result for you. Then we create a new standard chapter, which, as we've seen before, is essentially a chapter that can be used to create reports. Because we are emulating a company that sells paper, I've decided to generate a whole bunch of pages for no good reason, but to increase our sales. Next, for each page we want to generate, we rely on the grid layout class and its corresponding filler to add content to our report body. We have all sorts of layout classes, grid, text, images, etc. Depending on what you want to add to the report and how you intend to organize the logic for building it, you should choose one over the other. Next, we can see that all I'm doing is adding a text to my filler using a text layout, an image using the image layout, and then, because why not, a string that will be wrapped in a text layout by the filler for me. At the end, all that's left for me to do is to add a page break section to it. The best explanation I can give you about sections and the difference between a section and a layout came also from Kellett. In his words, the section is designed to organize content on a page. And according to him, from my understanding, the sections are conceptually just greater groupings of stuff. The layout is a section, but more defined for specific purposes. In some cases, for example, an image. However, layout can be a further abstraction too, like a grid layout. So what I understand is that they serve the same purpose, but from different perspectives. With this, all there's left to do is to return the chapter back to the perform creation method, and our wonderful code-driven report will be displayed for our users. The people who know me know I'm proud to say I'm lazy. I'm always looking for ways to do what I have to do in the easiest possible way. One of my favorite quotes from the show The Office comes from Kevin. Obviously, the extreme approach he took to save time didn't work. This actually proves a point that it's not a matter of doing less. It's a matter of being smart and effective in choosing when and where to spend time, energy, and money. In the case of custom/dynamic reports in CET, I believe that we actually have a gold mine right in front of our eyes, and for whatever reason, we, as a community, are failing to explore it. I'm referring to stored dynamic report, which is a term I invented, by the way, and all the power it unlocks in terms of not only making it easier to create custom templates and reporting workflows, but also providing the user with full control over how that's going to look and what data they really want to have there. Let's go back to CET and take a look at, from a high level, how users use the paper space to create custom reports. I'll just add some random things here. Oh, by the way, here's a fun fact I believe to be worth sharing. You can also create custom tools specifically for CET's paper space. An example of this is the yellow print button. Each time you click on it, it will give you a different office item inside Jello. Let's also add a few more things, maybe some text. whatever in that at that time. And then let's also add a data field for good measure. Finally, that's good. Now, if I click into the preview button, I'll get to the exact same spot as I were when we ran our code-driven report. One thing that maybe is still not a known fact to most CT devs is that you can also save your reports. In fact, I have a report that I created and saved earlier. Let's take a look at it. Click to open the report and drag the window here. So this is the report. And this is just a regular report page that I built earlier with a few items in it. It's very similar to the one we generated earlier using code, but with the main difference being that I built this one using CET's UI. There was no guessing game as to what object was where and what it would look like at the end. It includes text, an image, and a couple of data fields for the current and total pages, which is CET's report system will automatically update when I run it. Let's click on preview and see what it looks like. Okay, page 1 of 1. It works. Given what I've shown you so far, it shouldn't be a surprise if I told you that I can load and manipulate this report in code and change, remove, and add anything in it as I see fit. That's exactly what we are going to do now. Before we go back to the code, I want to illustrate one of the use cases for this. Creating and manipulating your reports using CET's UI enable non-developers to have a say in every single aspect of the final result. Unlike the code-driven approach where the layout and data are locked in CM, this approach allows for a hybrid approach that leverages the best of both worlds. We visually create the UI and use the code to empower our users to plot data from anywhere in the system into it seamlessly. Let's go to the code and see how we can read this file and output it to the user with just a few lines of code. In the method createTemplateBase chapter, we will simply get the instance of the active world, create a new instance of screen paper using the URL to the paper template we want to use, in this case, the template we just saw in CT. The stream will unpack into a new paper space instance, and this paper space will then be fed into a new instance of a PS report chapter, which will parse its contents into a valid chapter. Just like that, we are done. Let's go to CT and look at it in action inside our custom section. Let's get CT back on. Ctrl P. Go to that section. Toggle the Use Template Layout option on. And there we go. Cool, right? This is not the end of the story just yet. After all, so far we're not doing anything other than rewiring the output from the paper space to inside our custom section. But for those of you who, like me, enjoy the pranks from the show The Office and understand the Creed spirit, let's spice things up a bit in our stored reports. As we learned earlier on, every major piece in paper space is nothing but a snapper, right? So why not take advantage of our deep knowledge and understanding of how snappers work and take full control over the pieces that are part of our report? Say that instead of the image the user chooses, I want to add one of my own. In practical terms, we could harness this power to use the default snappers and tools available in Paperspace as mere landmarks, where we are going to aim at when pushing information onto it. Or even better, we are going to create our custom tools and snappers to be used in Paperspace so that the user can provide us with even more contextual information as to what's the intended usage of each block and section in the report. This is the foundation in which we can build powerful solutions like fully customizable template-based cut sheets, lookbooks, etc. Let's return to the code and modify it slightly to experience this power firsthand by examining it in action. I'm now going to uncomment the call to the method customize template chat. Let's look at what I'm doing here. As a parameter, I'm getting a reference to the recently unpacked Paperspace. In there, as you'd expect by now, you can find all the snappers the user placed in that report. But I can do more than just inspect them. I can interact, change, and even include new snappers in there. This is our goldmine. In this case, I'm simply looking for the image snapper that we have manually added to the report. And for now, all I'm doing is replacing the image with something else. Let's see how our report looks now. Go to CET. I'm going to run it again. Cool, right? We took control over the template, made it our own, but respected the structure and layout our user defined. Now, we can go deeper than this. The user can change this layout as much as they want, move things around, remove or add new sections. The sky's the limit. All we will do after is try to enrich it with data that we can extract from anywhere, be that in CET or elsewhere. Just think of the possibilities for a second. Actually, better than that, let's just do one more quick. Let me add a jello to this template. I'm going to save it on top of that template that I have. And I'm just going to run the report again. There we go. So that's basically as simple. Thank you all for watching. I hope you were able to learn something interesting today. And if you have any questions on this topic in the future, please don't hesitate to contact me. See you around.